We're deep diving into the stories behind your favourite brands, from candid chats with founders to insight from top marketers and e-com operators. We're going to discover how they're building, scaling and learning in the ever-evolving D2C landscape. And I'm super happy to introduce our fabulous guests for today, Clade from Skinrocks and Ollie from Klaviyo. Thank you so much for joining us. Would you both give us a bit of an intro, who you are, what you do, and a bit about your companies as well?
Perfect. I'll start. My name's Clade. I'm the CRM and loyalty manager at Skinrocks by Caroline Hirons. I started my career in beauty and skincare with a level 2 beauty therapy diploma, which gave me hands-on experience in treatments and just understanding the industry's intricacies. I'm actually a skincare aficionado, so I love everything to do with skincare. I transitioned to the tech-driven side of beauty when I joined Skinrocks. So I brought all my experience as in e-commerce and marketing to do customer experience, because I really wanted to develop my customer experience and detect tools and data analytics and bring all of that together for the journey. So here I foster long-term customer relationships at a company that has a really vibrant, loyal community, which was cultivated through Caroline Hirons' influential online presence. So if you don't know who Caroline Hirons is, she launched an iconic blog, which I also used to read, in 2020. And she has a Skincare Freaks Facebook community, which has hundreds of thousands of passionate skincare members. So Skinrocks has built from a community of people who care about skin. And now we have a skincare brand with some amazing products in there.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Ollie. I'm an account executive at Klaviyo. I've worked in tech for about 15 years now and in retail and e-commerce for about the last, I would say, 3 years or more. Klaviyo as a business, what we're doing is we empower B2C businesses to have really deep, detailed relationships with their customers, to enable them to have a single point of truth for all that customer data and all those interactions and all those services that they interact with customers on, be it sending them emails, SMS, interact with them in any possible way you can imagine, and then having that data all in one place so that you really understand how your customer is interacting with your website, making the most from your e-commerce store, and ultimately enabling your customer to have the best experience so that they are loyal to you and you retain them, and everyone wins in that situation.
Amazing, thank you. And thanks for joining. I think, we're often talking all about acquiring new customers and the cost of acquisitions rising. So it's really good that we're going to kind of cover that retention piece today and that customer experience and how we can really kind of keep customers sticky with us. So Clade, we're going to I know you've just kind of gone through a bit about Skinrocks then, but what does the profile of your customer typically look like?
The profile of our customer is someone who's super highly engaged. So they care about skin. They want to make their skin better. They want to tackle a particular concern. They're super ingredient aware. So as you know, in beauty right now, we've gone through like a science phase where everyone wants to know what the best ingredients are, what ingredients tackle what. And so customers are very much ingredient aware now. And that also means that they value no nonsense science-led skincare advice. So the customer is generally more empowered and they're more educated about the skincare brand. So the audience generally ranges from a complete beginner, someone who doesn't really know, would just like to find some information and they're attracted to the brand, right up to beauty professionals, people who do this every day. But their common goal is that they want clear guidance, they want results, and they want to feel seen in a space that sometimes is a bit nonsensical, if I may say myself, with the amount of information that there is out there and the amount of sort of myths that are out there. The customer just wants to be led to a place. So the common goal as a group, I would say, is that they want simple, easy skincare.
And people have such particular needs, don't they, when they're choosing skincare products? Because everyone's skin is different. Like, how are you ensuring that your messaging is resonating with customers across that buying journey?
I think we're doing this really well at the moment because we started thinking about it in different ways. So in the beginning, when I started here, we used to think about skin concerns. So we used to target skin concerns, which, as you know, in marketing, generally we are targeting mostly people's concerns about themselves, but we don't really want to actually do that. We want people to get to their goal. So we want to say, much like you would if you were working with a facialist, or much like you would if you're working with a dermatologist, I have this goal that I would like to reach. So it's not really a concern, because unless it's like actual medically induced. Most things are just things that would be nice to have. So to spin that on its head, we really use personalization now. So we look at people's skin type, and then we look at people's skin goals. And we do this in a myriad of ways. So if you come to the shop counter in Liberty, we'll have an in-store consultation where you could give us your skin concerns, give us your skin goals. What would you like to work on? What would you like to see? And that data point is fed into Klaviyo via profile properties. And then we also have an online quiz, which asks the same questions. What are your goals? What type of product do you like to use, kind of thing? And then it will give you a routine that makes sense for you. And so that we take all of the information points that we have from the customer, whether it be from the quiz, whether it be from real-time behavior that they're doing on the website in terms of viewing, browsing, reading blogs reading articles on the blog, reading articles on the app, and using dynamic segmentation to tailor the messaging based on their skin type, their goal, their past purchase, and their quiz responses. So it kind of feels like we're trying to give them a solution rather than just saying, hey, this is what you might need based on 15, concerns that you might enter.
And has that proven more effective? And do you think other beauty and skincare brands are going to kind of flip their messaging rather than being problem focused, but more solution focused?
Yeah, I think it tackles two things. It tackles the customer's need to want to find information themselves. So I think one of the things we've been discussing is how customers are really wanting that browsing and searching period before they start shopping. So they kind of want to be given this freedom to sort of search for the things that they want to on their own. And then once they're ready to buy, then be given the solution that makes sense for them. This is kind of different than saying, hey, I can see this. Would you like this? It's more about them reaching that on their own. So I think it kind of helps to decode skincare for them in a way that's not pushy. But I think brands will be moving towards skin goals and skin futures kind of thing, as opposed to skin concerns, just because it's been done already and we always need to find something new to kind of connect with the customer in and follow them on the trends, basically.
And Ollie, how does Klaviyo help brands turn all of that personalized data and insights into impactful segmentation and messaging?
So I really love the way that Clade's talking about how they're doing what they're doing with their customers, because if you're able to capture, there's a few things I'll mention on this, but first of all, having that value-led messaging is really powerful. And I think that's something that if you're nurturing customers and you're making sure you're providing value at every touch point, I think that's something that's a strategy that's going to pay dividends long term. Now, separately to that, if you can do that in a personalized way that's really specific to the customers, and that's what SkinRoxy is doing, then that's going to add even more value and be more specific to customers. So, for example, once a customer can go through this sort of skincare quiz, that data can be captured within the Klaviyo platform as custom properties against that specific customer. Then in the future, if, for example, Klade's going to bring to market a new moisturizer, for example, and customers have talked about their goals of having more hydrated skin and having a certain look that product is going to help with, then they can segment based upon those specific custom properties that are allocated to those individuals within their database, and then market specifically to them with a product that we know is going to be of interest to that person. So the way I see it is, if you're talking to customers with data, and ultimately I think there's some good stats out there nowadays, but I think something like 70% of customers want to have deeper relationships with brands, but the brands have to be able to enable that. And that's what this whole thing is around. So taking that skin quiz, providing that data, and then using it back to the customer to help them have a more intimate customer experience with you.
And Clade, is there anything else that you're doing around your automated flows with all of that data?
Yes, I was careful not to just accidentally say something that I can't say on the Klaviyo side. So I just realized that I can't say that. Yes, we are actually. So what we do for the automations is we take the product recommendation. So we're really moving towards this educational-led messaging. So as Ollie said there about value-led messaging, this is really key for us. So when a customer fills in the quiz or does some type of activity on the website targeted to a specific product, if they're completely new to the database now, what we'll be doing is giving them a product-led education flow. So this is kind of, okay, we want to nurture this customer. We do have a target into a KPI in terms of converting new subscribers to purchases. But, as we said, we're really into this educational value-led messaging. So we will just take that customer through that process of that product that they've just spoken about. And I think this gives them a place where they've introduced to the brand, instead of getting the welcome to Skin Rocks, here's what we do. It's more about welcome to Skin Rocks. We see you have an interest in this product. You've been recommended this product. This is how it works with you, such that if they buy it, they will then receive a post-purchase flow that will ask them, have you seen results? Is there any questions that you may have for our team? Please lead to our live chat. So this is the way that we kind of target customers when they first fill out the quiz, such that the information that they're getting back from us is very, very much tailored to what they've asked us or what they've given us. And I think it leads back to what Oli said in terms of customers are willing to give you the information, but what are you doing about it? I think we're sitting on so much data. It's about surfacing that and then actually educating and supporting the customer through what they're doing.
Ollie, do you think there's any flows that are underused or ones that brands should be paying a little bit more attention to when it comes to like automation?
I think you'd be surprised about the number of businesses out there that aren't really using automations much. And what we see at Klaviyo is customers that lean more into flows, is what we generally call automations. They're getting more out of the platform and making more money overall than ones that just typically rely on campaigns. Now, campaigns obviously have their place. They're very important. But the more you can be sending things out based upon customer behavior, which is often what's triggering these flows, the better. So typically speaking, I mean, we launch a benchmark report every year that actually has specific data around how customers are doing on average and also our top 10%. And that's because we're very lucky in some respects. We've got 167,000 customers around the world. And because of that vast volume of customers, we're able to break this down into different sub-verticals. So for example, for the beauty market, we can see how customers specifically do in that market. And then we can break it down versus specific flows as well. So the key four, the big four that we always talk about are abandoned cart. That's absolutely critical. 70% of carts are abandoned. So absolutely necessary to have that because it generates a lot of revenue. Welcome series that Clade already mentioned. That's the time when the customer has the most affinity with your brand starting off. So if you can capture their email address and then immediately start engaging with them, you've got a great chance of turning that into a purchase. So having a really good welcome flow is really important. Beyond that, post-purchase as well is really useful. We often see that, the data shows if you're sending a standard campaign, you're actually twice as likely in a post-purchase flow to get customers to buy again than you are versus a standard campaign. So it's well worth doing. Mm-hmm. Beyond that as well, the last one, which is often underutilized or not used at all, is abandoned browse. So for example, customers will be looking at products and they'll leave. If you can go back to them with a targeted message, showing them the products they were looking at, saying, did you find something you liked? Then abandoned browse can be something that's really good. So that's the big four. Outside of that, I would say things like back in stock flows are really useful. If something goes out of stock, it's a really great way of generating revenue immediately. Equally, we're getting into some of the more sophisticated capabilities within Klaviyo, where you're starting to use things like our marketing analytics tools as well. But if you're able to segment customers based upon where they are in the customer life cycle, for example, is it a champion customer who's really loves your products and they're very regular? Are they someone who was a champion, but they're now moving to at risk because they're not someone who's purchased as often recently? One thing you can do is target customers based upon where they are in the life cycle. So if they move from being a champion to them being at risk, you can have an automatic flow set up so that, for example, they'll receive a customer win back email with an offer perhaps in there to entice them back at exactly the right time. And that's all set up and it's working for you without you having to do any specific effort on that day because you put it in the past to set that flow up in the first place.
I'm surprised how many brands don't use that win back, like just from being a customer. Like of places where I remember I used to shop loads, I used to spend loads of money, and then I think as style changes or your needs change, as you mature, as you grow up, as your needs change, like you do tend to kind of move on from some brands. And it's very rare that I've received like a win back with like a good offer as well. Like I feel like if you really want someone to come back, like what do you do anything around the win back flows, Clade?
Yeah, so win backs are so important to our brand because there are some products that are not the fastest in terms of turnover. So you can use them for quite some time. So what you don't want is somebody who's using an acid, for example, or toner, to utilize it and get towards that last bit of the 3 months where it's just about finishing and then think, oh, I need something new, and see something else. Like, that's not what we would want. So we try to get those customers to return back at exactly the time. So what we've done is we've worked out how long it takes for each product to finish. And then we've worked out what is our number internally for how many days that would be that we would class that person as that customer as a lapsed customer. So for example, if we say a lapsed customer takes 6 months to return back to the brand, we would say at 4 months, we need to start doing some activity to get them back, such that 4 months is classed as you actually just reactivating them. They were never gone. They hadn't lapsed yet. And then at 6 months, we're doing a win back because now you've actually gone past the time that you should have taken to return to back to the brand, view the website, do anything. So we do a customer win back flow, and depending on how much they've spent, so we've actually had to split it out by spend now. Before we were doing everybody gets a code, and it just becomes a thing where it's like the customer gets really smart. They think, okay, I know roughly around this time I'm going to get a code. And anyway, there might be other offers between now and then. So there's not really much time. There's not really much point in me buying at full price at this stage. So the customer gets quite smart. So now what we do is we do it based on spend. So if a customer is a high spend customer, then they will get a different offer to a lower spend customer. That will be dependent on that basket that they checked out with. We also added something into this flow, which is starting to become a little bit complicated, but it's actually very useful if you think about your customer as your brand as part of the customer's life. Mm-hmm. So if you think about selling one product every time, you actually don't integrate yourself as a skincare brand into the customer's routine. So what happens is they use your one product and that's it. Whereas if you think about cross-selling other things, like other customers have bought this, that's been really, really useful to us this year, especially as we've increased, well, last year actually, and this year as well, especially as we've increased the range. So as we're launching new products, we are able to say, customers like yourself see really great results from using these two together. We see you've been using this for a month, like cross-sell that one into that flow, so that when it gets to that win back, you have a bit of a bigger piece of the pie to get them back into your brand. Win backs have been something that is great to just remind customers. We had a customer that genuinely just forgot about the brand. Mm-hmm. Signed up again, got a paid ad somewhere, signed up again and said, oh, I didn't get the welcome discount. And we've gone to investigate, and this customer's been signed up for 2 years. You know, they genuinely, like you said, just forgot about the brand, moved on, hadn't heard or seen us for a while, and re-enter the brand as if they were completely new to us, but were actually an existing subscriber. So having those flows would reduce that type of activity occurring from customers who genuinely might just not be checking their inboxes for a while.
Mm. And have you found that discounts are still effective in getting people back, or do you do any gift with purchase or free product? Or
yeah, so discounts is a very strong word. I don't think we're really in the discounting zone anymore. So when I say offers or promotions, we really do a lot of GWPs, gift with purchases. We do a lot of add-ons to people's orders, and then we also do surprise and delight. So CRM team where I work, and I'm the leader of that team, I work really closely with the head of customer service. We have the budget to surprise and delight customers at a certain stage every month. And we do this, and this counts as a discount or promotion, but it's not really, it's more something that adds value, like Ollie was saying earlier, adding that value to the customer. So for example, if you're in the loyalty program and you're really close to £10, which is 1,000 points, you know, you're 950 at this stage, we'll just give you the 50 points, for example. And we're allowed to do that. We have the right to do that if it makes the customer's life easier and if they're going to come back and purchase again. So we do different things to try to get the customer back, but we try to do it as much as we can without discounting. And then as we get further in the process, we think, okay, we really need to do something to get them back and to have them re-engage with the brand.
And just to kind of talk on the loyalty piece, Ollie, that's obviously quite a big part of SkinRock's strategy. How does Klaviyo support loyalty-driven messaging and that VIP segmentation?
So we have the capability within the platform anyway to analyze and understand the customer lifetime value and to see how customers have spent that over time. Equally, when you get into things like the marketing analytics and you're able to segment customers based upon their specific RFM value. So for example, are they what we would classify as a champion. Are they loyal? Are they recent? Do they need attention, or are they kind of at risk of leaving altogether, or are they totally inactive? Your messaging to them will depend on different things. So one thing I've seen successfully deployed recently is when someone's sending out a campaign, they can have show hide logic built into an email, so that, for example, let's imagine, Rebecca, that you're a champion for this particular brand. You're going to see something different to me, who I'm an at-risk customer. So because of that, that can do two things. It can either be something that protects your margins, because it means that if someone's a champion, maybe you're not going to provide them with an offer. Whereas if someone is at risk, then you could be presenting them with something that's going to entice them back again. So I think that's a big part of things. Equally, have all your data in one place ultimately is really important. And where Klaviyo is kind of our vision, and where we're going, we've announced a lot about this year, is that ultimately we started as data. We've then added email and SMS and WhatsApp and in-app messaging. These things are all kind of coming in terms of what we've built as a platform. So what's exciting is that our vision is to be the B2C CRM. So there's lots of CRM platforms out there that have originally been built for the B2B world, where there's very large opportunities moving through a pipeline and they're pushed by humans. Whereas what we see is that nothing's ever been built specifically for B2C. And what that means is we're moving away from just doing the kind of marketing automations and the things we've been talking about so far, but also onto the other side of things, which is included in service and customer support and those sides of the business as well. Because ultimately, these things need to be talking to each other. If the customer has a bad experience, or if they have a situation where product arrives and it's faulty, or there was a delivery problem, you don't want to then be talking to them and saying, oh, how was it? And can you give us a review, when, of course, there's a problem with the product? So now, if you've got those things talking to each other, then when someone does go onto the live chat and they're speaking to Clade and asking her about, oh, I've got this thing with my skin and blah, blah, blah. If Clade's got access to all of that information in front of her, and she can see, okay, I can see this is the customer, they're all their interactions they've had with us over time, then you're in a much better position to provide a great all-round customer experience from every touch point across initially purchasing something, being a customer, being serviced as well. So that whole thing comes together.
And just on like the loyalty program, Clade, like how big is that in your like retention strategy? Like I often speak with brands, and most people are using some form of loyalty program, but is it just like a set and forget type project that they've done? Others are like, oh, we've not really got the time to invest into it. Like, what would you kind of say for brands that are considering it, or maybe not putting as much effort into it as what they could be doing? How big is it for you guys?
Yeah, the loyalty program is quite central to the Skinbox CRM department. So as the CRM and loyalty manager, we managed that. So we launched it October 2023. And I think it's a bit different because it's not just about purchases, it's really about engagement. I think it is quite scary, inverted commas, to start something and then leave it, set and forget it. I think it's really important for brands to sort of use it as an opportunity to foster their connection. And I think you do this by putting the loyalty program above everything that you're doing. So if you're having new product development or you're having a marketing campaign, you really think about what would loyalty get for this. It's a way of incentivizing transactions, as we all know, but it's a way of getting direct access to your customers, closing that feedback loop, and then getting insight into what keeps customers coming back. So retention plays, the part that it plays within the retention strategy is that these customers are highly engaged with the brand. And then you can have access to them, you can ask them questions, they're going to give you feedback on their own accord. That's going to help you to attract new customers that behave in that way. So if you want to attract customers that behave like advocates, then you really need to be looking into your loyalty program to see what they're doing there. And as Ollie was saying, Klaviyo really helps you to do that, because just having those show hide blocks, for example, or having the templates within the flows to be able to send out the right message to the right customer at the right time really helps customers to feel like they're not just being asked to spend more money, they're actually fostering a connection with the brand. Some of the things that we do, I would say to brands to do differently, is think about what you can give that's not just points or discount. Because everybody can do points, everybody can do discounts, right? Everybody can start a tier-based program where the highest tier has a bunch of benefits that nobody will ever get but you really want to make it feel as though it's usable. And I think one of the biggest ways to do that, and one of the things that we're doing this year, is really shouting about it on social media. So whenever we do an event, whenever we do a masterclass or anything that is sort of a VIP only benefit, we really need to shout about it on social, such people can start to see this program exists. We also use Klaviyo email campaigns to actually promote the loyalty program, which is something that we weren't doing before. So people didn't know it was there. And you could ask someone, hey, I've been on the list for like 2 years, I've never heard about it. And you go, well, of course I know about it because that's my daily job. But in a busy day-to-day life that you might have, people are not really looking that deeply to see your new loyalty program. So your one time that you sent an email saying, welcome to my skin rewards, whoever didn't see that email may actually be genuinely out of the loop until now. So it's about ensuring that there's visibility for the program, that customers really know what it is that they're getting and what the benefits are of joining the program, and then sort of giving them something outside of just points and discounts.
And are you including that in like your welcome series, or like at what point in the customer journey are you introducing them to the program?
Yeah, so we include it within the welcome series, I think in the second or third email. And we're actually working on some ways to make it a bit more surface. So we redesigned it at the start of this year, just so that it make it clearer what customers were getting, especially for those that are using it right now, and gave us a lot of feedback in terms of how many points do I have, or what does this equal, etc. We also have places on the website for customers to be able to see that we have a program, and then we have the show hide blocks like Ollie was mentioning. So within email campaigns, we'll say, you could be earning points if you join my skin rewards, or you currently have this many points, check out and you can use them, for example. We use a lot of flows to remind customers that we're within the program, but we're really trying to increase that visibility for those that are not currently a part of the program.
And Ollie, is there any kind of common mistakes that you see when brands, like in terms of their flow timings, like sending too soon, sending not soon enough, sending too many emails as part of their flow setup? Do you think there is a perfect balance, or is it unique to each brand?
I think, as with a lot of things, you have to look at it through the lens of that specific brand, because these things are going to be different depending upon what types of products and services that you're offering. So that's the first thing I would say. Now, if we're going to make some kind of broad thoughts on timings, generally speaking, a lot of customers, when they join Klaviyo initially, will they have this mentality of the more emails we send, every time we send an email, it generates revenue. So they want to keep sending more and more emails. And sometimes what that'll end up happening, or the end effect of that, is that people end up stop paying attention to things because it's just too much, right? Especially you see these brands sending emails literally every day in a lot of cases. There was a brand, I won't name who they were, they're in the travel industry, but they were sending literally 3 emails a day every day, which blew my mind, to be honest with you. But what we see is that if you can reduce the number of emails you're sending, but make them more specific, make them more personalized, make them more relevant to the customer, then sending less emails will result in more revenue. So that's ultimately what it's all about, right? So we often ask customers, as part of that kind of initial conversation, how much revenue are you generating from your CRM right now? And in a lot of cases, customers don't even know. But if they do know, then sometimes these figures are lower, and what can they do? And the temptation is just to turn that needle to go, right, let's just send more. And actually sending less but making it more specific and more personalized is what you need to do. So I think it was a study by McKinsey showed that brands that lean into and do personalization really well generate 40% more revenue from e-commerce than brands that don't do it at all. So when we then think about that personalization, and I'm going slightly off topic here, but personalization in terms of the multiple levels, I would say the first thing, of course, 0.0 almost is you've got their email address. 0.1 after that is you're starting to gather data from the customer. And that could be, of course, their name, their birthday. It could be all the really clever, detailed stuff you get from the Skin Rocks skin quiz. But beyond that, then we're starting to do some additional clever things, which is leaning back into the idea of flows again, around where are they in the customer life cycle? Are they a champion customer? Are they someone who was a champion and now they're starting to lapse for whatever reason? So can you then send something based upon that? And to lean again into what Clay said earlier around some products, if it's a 1-a-day vitamin that someone's taking and you sell them a pack of 60, you might want to get back in touch with them at day 55, day 50, something like that, to say, hey, are they running out? Do you want to order some more? But with different products, of course, it matters in different ways. So those are different ways of personalization. The last one, I think, is where not many brands get to this level, but this is really where you're being really cerebral, really clever on some things, is where you start to go into sort of external things that are coming in terms of other data points. So, for example, you could base this around location and base it around things like the local weather. So then if Claire's got a situation where she knows that customers, for example, in the south of the UK, and we're about to have a hot spell in, let's say, 2 or 3 months' time, right? Then she might want to send out something to customers to say, hey, don't forget that these products have got inbuilt SPF protection for you as part of your skincare routine. And you might want to think about these things more when it's really warm and sunny and your skin might be exposed to more sun. So that's the kind of levels of personalization you can get to. And therefore sending less is better if you can be more personalized like that. Now, when it comes to things like timing, I think that, again, really depends upon the brand specifically, but we can do certain things nowadays where we are able to have that timing set. Going back to what I mentioned about products kind of running out at a typical point, with some of the product analysis that's available within Klaviyo, you can actually see when's the typical time that someone buys this again, and then map that. And if you can see those things, then that means that you can send out emails at the right time. You're not hustling people. You can send it just at the right time when it is helpful to them. And they think, oh yeah, you know what, that is a good point. I should reorder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a few things there as well in terms of like what time works for you, your email sends. So what time works? You can use smart sending in Klaviyo to try to learn about what makes sense for your account. A lot of times we use a lot of internal intuition to go, oh yeah, I think 7 o'clock works, but actually you could be testing the best time for certain audiences. As Ollie was saying, I think location matters a lot within a flow. Mm-hmm. So I think flow is just being like, send it 11 hours after, but change the timing so that it's 8 a.m. in everyone's time zone. This is going to make a difference to the customers in Australia because, 9 p.m. here is 4 a.m. there, or 9 a.m. here is 4 p.m. there. I don't know. But you need to think about that timing. So one thing I noticed yesterday, so I was in the Klaviyo offices yesterday, actually, and I saw a very, very nice profile property that I would like to implement. And this is for our post-purchase properties, because we realize that customers, when they make their first purchase with us, we really need to walk them through how to use the product and educate them. But we've set the time up to just be 3 days after you've purchased it. But considering those US and Australian customers, they might not get it in 3 days. So UK customer is next day delivery, but an Australian customer might be up to 10 days, depending on how long they leave it, or depending on if they were at home or not, because some areas do not allow for orders to be left on the porch. So with that taken into account, the profile property actually was implemented into this account, and they got their developer to say profile package delivered. Now, package delivered ensures that the flow really begins at the right time for the customer to say, it should be with you now. If it's not, please reach out to our customer service team. If it is, please take your before photo, let us know what progress you have. And so the flow begins at the right time for each customer. Whereas I think if you just say, okay, 7 days after everyone orders, they're going to get this email. 14 days after, it's really imbalanced for certain customers, and then it can become a little bit impersonal, especially knowing where they are and what they're buying. You should really be thinking about what time works for them. So it's little things like this that we don't consider, but actually when you think about it from a long distance customer, for example, they might only ever be getting this bad experience with you, and they might say great product, great brand, but they always send me an email at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they always send me post-purchase flows 3 days before the product lands, and it's really annoying kind of thing.
And I bet, like you said, like sometimes you don't even think about those things, but I wonder if it, like, how many customers it has turned off before you've kind of found the solution on.
Yeah, I think another thing we I can't remember who said this to me, but another thing we discovered from our customers was that they want to see reviews based on their location. Mm. So, and I think this is genuinely for that external customer. And I realize this if I buy something from the US or whatever, like I've been looking at this hairdryer, I want to see so many adverts about how good it is, because if I'm going to pay shipping for it to come here, I need to know it works, right? And the customers want to see, when they come to the website, reviews that are tailored for them. So what we're doing for them now, taking this feedback on, is, okay, a US customer will see a review from a US customer. That's going to be more beneficial to them to say, okay, I really want to try this retinoid. I really want to work on this hyperpigmentation. A customer from Seattle has also purchased it and has gone out of their way to leave a review. It benefits me more to know that someone else has paid that shipping, rather than only seeing, the UK customers for whom shipping is free when they spend £50. I want to see from that customer who's really put the time and effort in to get it as well. And I think when you listen to your customers and you have that feedback loop, you're able to pick up on these little anecdotal pieces of feedback that really can make a difference for attracting customers from that region.
Ollie, do you have any recommendations for brands that want to balance automation with having moments of personal touch and human touch in their CRM strategy?
Oh, great question. I think that one thing to almost go back a little bit to something Clade was talking about earlier around how can you provide value to customers that isn't in the form of discounts and things like that is, can you offer VIP customers the opportunity to have early access to events? Can you do things where you're offering them early access to new products, things like that? I think those kind of things are offering a lot of value, and I think that's something that I would mention on that side of things. Equally, and depends upon how scalable these things are, right? With the digital world, we can be incredibly scalable, and that's one of the things that Klaviyo really helps with. When it comes to kind of the human touch in a lot of other ways, I guess that's where the online, offline world are trying to kind of connect. And if there are ways now, and we're starting to see this more and more, where customers have got this requirement, ideally, to pull in data into Klaviyo from the in-store experience that people have. So as Clade said earlier, if someone comes into Liberty or wherever they are and has a personal appointment, with a skincare specialist, and they talk about what's going on, how can that data be pulled into Klaviyo the same way that it can be if someone goes through that online skincare quiz? So that's something that we're really passionate about, and we've got ways and means to pull data into Klaviyo from so many different sources and through lots of pre-built integrations. But it's definitely something that needs more work in the future to kind of grow that out and make it so it's a really, really easy process, so people can just pull that data in from anywhere and make sure that we're able to both push people from a digital online perspective and nudge them, give them opportunities to go and have that personal in-store experience. But at the same time, when they have that in-store experience, the data is able to be met online. So we've got that single source of truth.
Mm-hmm. And Clade, looking ahead, are there any emerging tech or marketing innovations that you're excited about or looking at adopting for SkinRocks?
Yes, I'm really excited about the potential of predictive analytics. So much like Ollie was saying, not only helping customers, from what they've previously done, but actually starting to look into what their next purchase behavior may be. I think this is so interesting because as we want to start, cross-selling and upselling and really becoming a brand that customers can use throughout their life cycle effectively of skincare, it's really nice to know what they might buy next. So, customers who purchase the moisturizer on their first purchase are 17% more likely to purchase the retinoid, for example. That's not a real stat. I just made that on the fly. But this is kind of really useful for, especially when you're in a pinch and you really want to just hit the customer with what they're going to need. It's great for sort of segueing into that next thing for them. I think AI-driven personalization is also really interesting. Yesterday, we looked into marketing analytics, which is a paid add-on feature of Klaviyo. But within the custom objects there, we have a specific use case already in mind for something like this. And I think this is where we start to think forward, like we think ahead as emerging technologies come. So for example, you come to the Liberty counter or you come to a event. So if you're part of the My Skin Rewards loyalty program, you reach the VIP tier, you're going to get invited to Caroline Hyron's masterclasses. So for example, we have some coming up in Liberty this month at the end of the month. You come, you buy 2 tickets and you use the same email to buy both tickets. We see you there, it's yourself and your mum. and you're like, oh, this is great. I'm loving it. I've had my, spring skin routine talk with Caroline. I've asked my questions. I've taken my photos. I've gone downstairs to the counter to make the purchase of the products that I would like. I've also bought my mum some products. So using the custom objects logic within Klaviyo, what we would do then is we would fill out the form twice for this customer. Let's call her Sarah. And we would say to Sarah, Sarah's custom object is she brought her mum in store with her. Her mum's called Gemma, and Gemma bought 1, 2, 3. If she gives or does not give her mum's birthday, for example, in the future, they're using predictive analytics or AI-driven personalization. We will pull that custom object to say, Sarah, it's your mum's birthday in a month. You've got you've got £10 voucher here or whatever. Would you like to buy your mum that same thing that she bought last time you guys came to the store? This is where you're really thinking outside of the box and you're starting to actually make it useful for the customer, because whilst her mom's not in our database because she used her email twice, we can actually add that onto Sarah's profile without muddying the waters. And then we can actually use that zero-party data to kind of provide her with an extra service. I just received this today as well, because I was like, did someone hear me saying this? Today I bought a cake for my nephew last year, and his birthday is on May the 7th. And this brand obviously asks for the birthday, not just what is it for. They say, who is it for? What's the birthday? When do you need it? And just today, they've sent 3 weeks ahead. You've got 20 days to go until your birthday.
You bought your cake, yeah.
Yeah, I need to get the cake, actually. Now, wait a second. I do need to get the cake. So thank you so much. And now I've just been reminded that it's in 3 weeks and I need to get a cake. And this is where you're thinking, okay, you're using it ahead. And obviously for a cake company, it's you need to be doing this because that's how you make your money once a year, twice a year kind of thing. But for us brands that we're selling different things, we could also be thinking ahead. Every time someone, if someone has opted out of certain activities, has opted out of Mother's Day content, you then shouldn't really be trying to do the strategy with them, and you should be putting it into there that automatically they don't want to receive it at all anyway. But if someone is in that flow where they've come with somebody, you should also say your friend might need this now, or how's it going for your friend? So I think this kind of strategy in the future is going to really make the integration between loyalty and content a lot better. And one of the things that I also wanted to bring up in terms of emerging technologies is gamified loyalty experiences are really the future.
Mm-hmm.
I think the brands who are doing it so well, like Refi, Adenola, even some really amazing interior design companies, they're really thinking ahead. They're saying, if you buy this sofa now, which will be delivered in 2026, we're going to send you this for it, and we think this wallpaper will go great. And we've, just thinking about experiences outside of points, thinking about experiences outside of getting a discount is really useful, and just outside of meeting the founder as well. What can you give the customer? I think one of the things I saw a few weeks ago was a brand took their most loyal customers on a influencer brand trip.
Mm-hmm.
And I think normally we're used to seeing influencers go on these brand trips. We're used to seeing influencers posting, but to see customers who've really spent the most, with the brand, being taken on these type of trips takes that loyalty experience to the next level.
And do you think that's the way forward now? If you really want to kind of engage your customers, is it's constantly innovating, it's constantly doing more?
Yeah, I think there's two streams of customers now. I think there's the customer who's going to be a top spender who does not want to be a part of the loyalty program. So as marketers, we need to give them the space and privacy to just make their big purchases and go on about their day. And then there's going to be that loyal customer who wants to be a part of the program, who wants to be reached out to. And they've spent so much with you that they genuinely need something different. It's not going to become luxury brand level of take me on a cruise fashion show, but it will get to that stage where it's rather than give me another £10, because for me to get the £10, I need to spend money. What else am I getting? And I think customers are genuinely smart enough to know. I always bring up this one that I mentioned last month because it was my birthday. Marks and Spencer sent me the simplest gift. It must have cost them $0 to do on the Marks and Sparks app. And it was happy birthday. You have two options, 20% off trousers. And I always buy trousers in M&S because they have the long versions, or free Colin the Caterpillar. Now, free Colin the Caterpillar, for someone like me who buys a pack every month, basically, that is the best birthday gift. Now, that makes me feel okay, this is fantastic. I want to be a part of this loyalty program because they even remembered the type of Colin the Caterpillar that I like. And if you can do that well, I'm going to be talking about it all the time now, and I'll tell everyone to get a Sparks card.
And you'll do anything for a free Colin the Caterpillar.
Anything. Exactly.
Just to build on what you said there, Clade, I think one thing that a marketer could be thinking about in that situation is whatever I'm doing here, is it going to make them smile? And clearly that whole thing that you just talked about, did that for you. But also building on what you mentioned before around the idea of completing the look or completing the room, that's something that we're definitely seeing is something that is a strategy. Certain brands who have probably a bit different to Skinrocks in some respects, but brands that have quite high value, low frequency purchasing, where maybe it's something like it's an expensive electronic item or expensive piece of furniture. What can those brands do to provide additional products in between times that are of a lower cost, but they can then capitalize on that brand affinity to enable people to complete the look or complete the room or whatever it might be, so that they're able to just capitalize on that loyalty that they have, as I say, and make sure that you're keeping that customer's mind share ahead of the next time they make that multiple £100 or even thousands of pounds purchase, if it's 5 years later. And to be fair, another thing, and don't want to be too salesy here, but another thing that is a real point about Klaviyo, I think that helps us differentiate in the marketplace, is that we don't charge for extra data or long-term data storage. We keep that data there around customer profiles for a longer term. And why that's important is if people are having long-term habits and that kind of thing, then you're able to really understand that, rather than in some competitors where it might be 90 days and then the data just evaporates, right? You don't have access to it. So I think that's an important point too.
And for do either of you have any top tips for brands that are maybe not at the top of their game with retention or loyalty, on things that you would consider like a quick win that they could go ahead and implement?
That's a good question. What would I implement right now? I would do the top 4, like Ollie said, which is the flows.
Yeah.
I think we heavily depend on campaigns to do a lot of the heavy lifting where we could be automating. And then I would go through and really just see what data it is you're sitting on and why. Because sometimes we're sitting on things we're never going to use it. So where did you pull it in from? What is it doing there? I think if you look at those 2 things first, like really get your flows down, and then you see what data you can use, you can inform your strategy as you go ahead, as you move forward. I think I would do that first. That's where I would start.
I agree with everything you said there, Clade. I think I might, if you're going to embark on having a loyalty program, that's not something that's a small consideration. And I don't think it's necessarily something that you can just get a quick win. I think it's something that needs to be strategically considered. You need to understand what your goals are long term, in terms of how are we going to establish a loyalty program? What are we going to be giving back here? And how's that going to look? Where do we want to be in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, if we do this, and how are we going to get there? Once you've broken that down, then really understanding how you're going to message that to customers and work on that, I think is something that's really important. But overall, in terms of the quick wins and things like that, anything you can do where you can put effort in once and then it's going to keep paying you back longer term, I think is really going to help. That's something that flows and things like that really enable. But if you are going to go down the loyalty route, one thing that we've proven with some customers of ours is the idea that if you have that loyalty information, put it into your emails. So if you, first of all, we talk about personalization, putting someone's name in an email, right? That's really basic. People have been doing that for 10 years. If you can put in something that every time they see their email, they see how many points they've got, right? That's something that they care about. They will look at that, especially if it's gradually going up or they know what the goals are. And you can do that in lots of different ways. Going back to the conversation about gamifying things, if you've got a chart and you can see here's reward 1 at this point and you're gradually getting up towards that point, reward 2, reward 3, you can see these things. It does create a bit more of a kind of competition in your mind, and you're thinking about these things and projecting long term where you might be. So adding that information into emails is something that's not terribly hard to do, and it's not just emails as well, but emails are the easiest one to do. But if you've got one platform like Klaviyo and you're communicating in lots of different ways, maybe it's on SMS or in-app messages, things like that, then letting people know about how they're getting on in the loyalty thing as well is a good thing to do.
Amazing, thank you. And Clade, what's next for Skinrocks? Anything exciting coming up or anything that we should watch out for?
Next for Skinrocks, we have a really exciting launch coming very, very soon. So if you like a product with a bit of a lighter texture, that's on its way imminently. And one of the things we're doing for that product launch specifically is allowing our VIP customers to get their first access to that. So, there is a perk to being a VIP customer within our program. You will get to see new products when they come out. And we're also taking that education-led theme a bit further with a specific webinar just for that group of customers. So you will get to learn from our content and education team about the new products that are coming out throughout the year. We're also expanding our loyalty program to make it more accessible and interactive. So as I said earlier, version 2 was really about listening to the existing customers and seeing what they think about the program. Does it make sense to them? Is it easy to find their rewards? Is it easy to know what the benefits are? And version 3 is really about how do people who are not on the program hear about it, like ensuring that when they're at cart, they know exactly how many points that they would receive if they purchase this product. After they purchase, telling them that you could have had this many points if you had purchased the product. Would you like us to backdate that? Stuff like this makes it more accessible and interactive to them. And we're really going to push that loyalty program to be like the best tier. And we have such a great team working on it. So hopefully everyone will like it.
Amazing. And anything at Klaviyo that's coming up? Or
I think one thing we're working on that I probably can't be too specific about, but something that I think is really exciting is the idea that over time, with Klaviyo, you're able to measure what channels are we sending on, for example, that customers are using. And it's on an individual basis. For example, Rebecca, you might always look at your SMS, but you don't look at your emails. And Clave might be the opposite. So can you then communicate the right message at the right time to the right customer on the right channel? I think that's really important. So based upon that, if you've got effectively, I think we might call it channel affinity, the idea that if I'm going to send out this big campaign, big product launch, and I want to get the most out of it, I want to get the highest click rates, I want to get the highest purchase rates, I want to generate the most interest. Let's, instead of sending emails out to everyone or SMS out to everyone, can we send things on those specific channels that make sense to each customer, where they have the most affinity for it? And if you are a customer in that situation, it's just another thing that confirms to you that the brand you're working with, on this case, let's say Skin Rocks, they get me, they understand me. They're not, they're sending me things on the channels that I know I care about and I look at. So that's another thing that we have, I think, coming soon, and that's really exciting. I think it's going to add a lot of value.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited for that because I realized a few months ago that if you are a customer that is signed up to our SMS, we're not currently using it as a channel. So therefore that customer is never hearing from us. So something like this will ensure that actually there is that group of people who they're not signed up to email, but they are signed up to SMS, but we only send SMS on certain occasions. What are we doing for them? So I think actually being able to flip it on its head now and say, we'll send the same message in SMS and in email, and then ensuring that if they only want to hear from us there, that they do, that's going to be really great for the customers who've only signed up to hear on different channels.
And to build on that a little bit more as well, on the opposite side of it, so that's obviously outgoing marketing messaging, but on the opposite side, when it's from a customer service perspective, if you've got almost a unified inbox, so for example, when customers are looking to speak to you, maybe you've got an issue with something and you want to communicate with them, then having that ability as a customer service person to be able to communicate back to the customer, and then you don't care if it goes out on email, on SMS, on WhatsApp, whatever channel it might be, the customer receives that message regardless, and you don't have to worry about it. And that's the same thing's true for live chat, all that kind of thing. So I think that's really exciting, the potential to have that. And then also to some degree, of course, we want the human touch as much as we can, but in order to scale on a digital level, being able to have that as AI first. So if people have got simple questions, where's my order at? They can ask a question, and then the AI can deal with that without needing a person to be involved. So these are all things that coming down the line, the ability to do it both on the outward bound and also coming back to.
That's exciting. Well, thank you both so much. That was brilliant and really insightful. So yeah, thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much for having me.